Thank you.
Good, you got your bag. I'll make his bag. Come into the conference room. Do they have men's room? I don't know. Wait, oh, hi. It's good to see you. Look at that.
Where does it say any of those facts at the end? I didn't recognize this.
La casa está tiene calor.
How are you, Sam? Am I interrupting your... Sorry.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. I'm Rita Water, co-chair. This is not on. Co-chair with Bruce Turkle of the musical team, and we're delighted to welcome you tonight. The time is the not too distant past. The place, anywhere, USA. There, unemployed law school graduates seeking shelter from the harsh winds of hiring freezes have united. A general dissatisfaction and growing despair has evolved into unrest. The graduates vent their frustration at the schools that left them with a degree of questionable worth, an empty cupboard, and a mound of debt. Armed with legal pads and tenuous causes of action, these young men and women confront the legal education system that has left them living off their bar mitzvah bonds and minimal allowance. This is their story. These are les lawyers miserables. So we begin this show.
American legal education is in crisis.
What good is thinking like a lawyer when we're out of work and indebted up to our ears?
According to the ABA's section on legal education and admission to the bar, only 56.2% of the graduating class of 2012 had full-time, long-term jobs that required bar passage as of February 2013.
Even this was an improvement over last year when over 54.9% of the 2011 graduates found full-time, long-term jobs.
Too many lawyers chasing too few jobs.
We're down, we're mad, we're tired and annoyed. 3 years of school, hopelessly unemployed. We're down, we're mad, our lives we can't enjoy. We feel like fools and work as errand boys.
Listen to me, my name's Lori. Recently earned my law degree. My story's sad and shared, you see. We've been deceived quite royally.
We had a dream that we would graduate, work at a firm of high repute.
But all the firms said we would have to wait. Offers deferred, some withdrew.
We were dumb, we were used, now we'll sue, now we'll sue!
We're down and naming names and casting blame. We're filing suits and setting forth our claims. There'll be changes made, deeds will get their way. We're gonna bring a lawsuit and make sure the law schools pay.
They promised there'd be jobs, they made us guarantees. They said that we'd be working if we earned JD degrees.
Who will take our case? Fees we cannot pay. Someone may consent to represent us anyway. When's it gonna start? Gotta bring the suit. Something's gotta happen now, our plans we must pursue. When's it gonna start? Gotta bring the suit. Something's gotta happen now, our claims we must pursue. Must pursue, must pursue, must pursue, must pursue, must pursue, must pursue. We're all the leaders of the schools. They let us on, broke every rule. They do not care if we're employed, so long as profits they enjoy.
Someone's gonna pay, we won't go away.
We're gonna vent our grievance and we're gonna have our say. Have our say, have our say,
Have our say.
have our say.
Our funds are low and fading fast. Won't last the years of
With all the outcry in the air, how long before some change is made? Before they recognize they told us lies. Before the barricades are policies. We will fight for students and the law. Watch tonight, our fight has just begun.
Fueled by the economic downturn, salaries are cut, layoffs are forced, and hiring freezes are mandated throughout the country.
Clients hit hard by the recession refuse to pay high prices for inexperienced associates.
Firms are no longer willing to pay top dollar for graduates who, despite their grade point averages, need mentoring and experience before their wages begin to pay off.
For law school grads, this means delayed starts and lower salaries, coupled with big loans and a growing sense that their high-priced education has been for naught.
Tuition continues to rise in excess of inflation, while schools pay deans and professors very nicely along the way.
Students call for an end to a system that they claim is irreparably broken.
3 years of law school and nothing to show from it.
At the end of 3 years, we all got a diploma. But what good is it now when we're out on our own? It's a struggle to survive when so few of the locals will hire, and we're wondering how we will pay off all of our loans. And we're cold and we're tired. At the end of 3 years, all our funds are expended. And we're borrowing more than we had to before. And we're all living at home. And we're sharing a bed with our brothers. We're sleeping in the garage where our stuff's being stored. And our hearts have been hardened.
At the end of 3 years, we had hoped we'd be hired by Chadbourne and Parker, by Curtis Millay. Instead, we are cashiers, or restocking the shelves at Christie's with debts up to our ears. We can't even afford a panini. Our budgeting is austere. At the end of 3 years,
We all knew in our hearts that we had to do something, but we hadn't a clue as to what it could be. So we sought out some advice as to how to improve our condition. A crisis had arrived. We needed a radical vision. We all agreed it would be lawsuits instantly. It's not the deans who you should fault, because your loans are in default, and your degree is of no value. Who knew that learning things by rote, and in this days of taking notes, would not help you to earn your way? This is our core curriculum. This is the way it's always done. That's how our school has always run. At the end of 3 years, we're just hoping for something. There's a fortunate few who they let volunteer. We had dreamed that there'd be more when we chose to become attorneys. Why the heck did we do it for? Just look at how little we're earning. Our dreams have all disappeared. At the end of 3 years, it's not the law school's fault, you see. You should be proud of your degrees. We did not cause the hiring freezes. We never gave you guarantees that you'd be earning salaries or finding decent jobs with ease. We gave you opportunity to learn to think critically and pay our schools outrageous fees. At the end of 3 years, all our futures are dimming, and we're burdened with debt and a worthless degree. We must start using our brains, reviewing our limited options. It is driving us insane. Our
we longings we have to be hawking. We are drowning in arrears at the end of 3 years.
Students take to the courts. At least 25 individual class action lawsuits are filed by a total of 73 law school grads who allege that the schools falsely inflated graduate employment rates.
The complaints allege a litany of wrongdoing. Law schools are accused of skewing the data by employing their own students in temporary jobs and counting graduates working in non-legal related jobs and part-time jobs as employed.
Thomas M. Cooley Law School is accused of having been, and I quote, systematically defrauding thousands of prospective and enrolled students by reporting deceptive and misleading job placement data and salary information in a misguided attempt to inflate the value of a Cooley degree and thereby draw millions of undeserved tuition dollars.
Cooley Law alleges in response that to the extent plaintiffs allegedly relied upon the deceptive and misleading employment data, that reliance was unreasonable because plaintiffs should have known that far fewer than the reported amount of Cooley graduates actually obtained full-time permanent employment that required a Cooley degree.
In other words, Cooley had the audacity to argue that its own graduates unreasonably relied on Cooley's marketing materials because they should have recognized that Cooley's reported employment statistics were inaccurate. Thus, aside from making a cynical and unprincipled argument, Cooley likely misstated the law.
Brooklyn Law School is accused of having falsely advertised employment rates from 88% to 98% within 9 months of graduation.
One graduate, Adam Bevelqua, who went deep into debt before he even enrolled, contended that he specifically relied on Brooklyn Law School's representation that, depending on the year, well over 90% of the school's graduates secured employment within 9 months of graduation, a claim he insists was knowingly false.
Law students are begging Congress to make student loans dischargeable.
All my loans have gotten really nervous. Can't survive the cost of my debt service. 3 years of law school forced me to spend my dowry. Thought a JD was what I'd need to make a handsome salary. All my loans are what a bad investment. Times are tough. I'm beginning to feel desperate. I've now abandoned my drive and my ambition. I'm not in court despite the cost of my law school tuition. The dean said the grads here will find work, but he did not say that we would ever be paid. Volunteers who'll never earn a sou. IOUs evermore. Oh, my loans impose a burden. The high price of mediocre learning. Without funds, I'm a hopeless legal scholar. I've come to learn that now I'll just be making quarter pounders. All my loans collection goes increasing. Self-run brings, and once again I'm freaking. Without funds,
why law schools are now on the defense, forced to defend their age-old policies.
Well, Dean Tumult, isn't it true that the expense and debt of law school exceeds $150,000 in many schools? Isn't it true that repayments are seldom dischargeable in bankruptcy? Isn't it true that future income to repay those loans depends greatly on geography and high grades? And have not the law schools failed to make clear that those with reasonable doubt about their ability to be at the top of their class or who can't get into a nationally recognized law school should rationally treat legal education as very risky?
Is that one question?
I object.
Tuition rates are worth the cost. Your law degree will hold its value over a period of time.
You have to say that. We would never expect you to meddle with a proven earning machine or trigger alumni wrath by devaluing the value of law degrees from your own school.
Pish posh. Your lawsuits may generate some coverage in the legal media, but your underlying claims are weak. Our schools have met minimum industry standards when reporting job placement. Your allegations are baseless, and we will vigorously seek the dismissal of your lawsuit in its entirety, with costs and disbursement, including attorney's fees and such other relief as the court finds just and equitable. My law school's being sued by a disgruntled few who claim they paid for 3 years of law school because we stretched the truth. They say we represented that jobs were guaranteed. They blame us for their now worthless degrees. Alumni are now discontent by widespread unemployment. They call us liars because the law firms do not hire. Tuition, they say, was misspent. They claim we finagled the facts. Our figures were too inexact. Contend we deceived them with statistics used to tease them. The students are on the attack. Their law school years were so instructive. We taught our kids what practice is. They should have known they'd be out on their own without funds on which they could live. No faulting our fine faculty. The lectures put students to sleep. So what if our courses are irrelevant to bosses? Who said you'd have useful JDs? Have I lost the key? Law. Students say we're overcharging. They are outraged and getting mean. They don't understand the large sums I command to stay here and serve as your dean. So please keep your comments polite. A riot you should not incite. We overstated some job figures we inflated. What were you expecting?
What were you expecting?
Deans have imperfections.
Deeds of imperfections.
Your suit, they're rejecting. You'll see.
I am Dean of Roger Williams University School of Law in Rhode Island, which is not one of the schools being sued, and I am skeptical about the merits of this lawsuit. The school's graduate job placement data may be opaque, but still in compliance with industry standards. While the complaints point to statements about how each school's exemplary education will help graduates establish a legal career, puffing is not the same as fraud.
I am Rudolph Hassel, Dean of the Thomas Jefferson Law School in San Diego. Mine was one of the first law schools to be sued. I believe we're in a very strong position in the litigation. The information we published about job placement is accurate and correct.
What other defenses will you put forward?
Information on graduate job prospects is not the main reason individuals choose a law school. The key is, to what extent was the applicant's decision to attend the law school motivated by job placement data? My sense is that's not a driving force. Other factors are far more significant, such as the applicant's credentials and what choice of school the student has.
Historically, the ABA, which accredits law schools, provided little guidance on what job placement data schools were required to report.
It asked law schools to use the guidelines of the National Association for Law Placement when reporting the careers of their graduates. The association allowed law schools to report their graduates as employed if they held part-time, low-wage jobs that did not require a law degree.
That changed in 2011 when the ABA asked law schools to provide more detailed information on where, how, and whether recent law graduates were employed.
Little wonder that most of the class action lawsuits have been thrown out.
Students are outraged and looking for answers. We take you now to a press conference where Justice Melvin Schweitzer of the Supreme Court of New York County is being grilled on his decision to dismiss a complaint against New York Law School.
Justice Schweitzer, you rejected plaintiff's argument that misleading statistics led them to overvalue their legal education. Can you share your rationale?
Quite simply, I believe that the law school framed its data accurately and that prospective law students are sophisticated consumers capable of analyzing that information.
You say in your decision that this was essentially a case of caveat emptor.
The issues posed by this case exemplify the adage that not every ailment affecting society may be redressed by a lawsuit.
Justice Schweitzer, you appear critical of the New York Law School grads, suggesting they should have known employment was not assured and that students at higher rated law schools tend to receive better jobs. What are your thoughts?
It should have come as close to no surprise that these law school consumers, that the most lucrative jobs often are associated with having attended a high-ranking law school. Somehow it's lost on them that a goodly number of law school graduates toil, perhaps part-time, in drudgery or have less than hugely successful careers.
Do you have any advice as to what changes law schools might adopt?
Law schools need to provide students with the most transparent data of the state of our profession that we can possibly assemble so they can make the most informed decisions that affect their livelihood.
That's it.
Suits like this one highlight the need for a frank assessment of future lawyers' career prospects.
Do you believe that the law schools should be blamed, at least in part, for current conditions?
To the extent law schools are turning out too many graduates for the positions available, market forces will begin to correct themselves, hopefully in short order. But that does not excuse our collective responsibility to those who've been unfortunate enough to have been caught in the midst of this maelstrom.
Well, do you think your decision will drive law schools to address the serious issues affecting legal education?
I doubt they're very concerned about those charges. Let's look in on their victory celebration.
Lawsuits galore, claiming that law schools have to see. Charges mean nothing, just baseless claims. Anti-rephrase, they're clutching at straws,
abusing the law.
Their angry voices will be ignored. Students just soar 'cause they got a bleak future in store. Students gone overboard. Law school deans are above the law.
though largely unsuccessful, highlight this uncertain moment in the law profession.
As some law schools consider or adopt new models, students grow increasingly skittish about law school. For the years 2011 to 12, the number of those taking the law school entrance exam has sharply declined, reflecting a view that the sluggish legal market will continue to retrench.
So far, 51% of law schools have cut the size of their entering classes, according to a 2012 survey of law school admissions by Kaplan Test Prep. 2/3 said they did so because of a weak legal job market.
Kaplan also found that 47% of law schools have increased the amount of financial aid they are giving to students for the current school year, a sign to some like Paul Campos, a University of Colorado law professor, that law schools are lowering their entry standards.
Campos Statistics says that the total number of law school applicants for 2012 is 1/3 lower than the number in the 2003-04 year.
This isn't sustainable, warns Campos. There's a zealous faith in American culture that higher education always pays for itself. When people realize it's a worthless degree, the system is going to collapse.
Meanwhile, impoverished graduates are second-guessing their decisions to pursue a career in the law.
3 years of study cost lots of currency and all those hidden fees. What was I thinking? Now I'm in stinking debt. It sure is something that I've come to regret. Law school is over, career is in flux. I am not working and I owe big bucks. Law school, terrible waste of mind. Going to law school made so little sense. Plenty of courses, but no experience. Law school, what a terrible waste of mind. What? Oh, sorry. My passion I pursued made the law review. Still, oh dear, my rent is overdue. I'm so confused. Had aspirations, but times have been rough. Got but one offer, it was Dewey LaBeouf. Oh, a terrible waste of time. Maybe someday I'll look back and laugh when I make partner at Paul Weiss or Crevette. Law school, a terrible waste of mind. The dean guaranteed I earn a salary, but I'm on my own. I work for free in poverty. The dream I once held has all turned to ash. Not one of my classmates earned real cash. Law school, a terrible waste of
In response to such concerns, the legal profession has taken serious note of the circumstances of the downtrodden alum.
Yes, this has not been the first time that law schools have been the subject of stinging critiques. As early as 1992, the American Bar Association recognized the need to study law school reform by setting up a task force to, quote, addressed the gap between expectation and reality when it came to transition between school and work.
That task force produced the McQuaid report, which identified core values and skills needed in the profession.
The skills included proficiency in written and oral communications, the ability to apply legal principles to problems, working with clients, and preparing for negotiations, among other items.
Many law schools responded by incorporating more skills-based classes into their curriculums.
In 2007, a report by the Carnegie Foundation complained that law schools have contributed heavily to the crisis in legal education by giving, quote, only casual attention to teaching students how to use legal thinking.
And the Carnegie report also criticized the stagnancy of law schools for remaining locked in the Socratic method.
The report faulted law schools for teaching students how to think like a lawyer, but not how to develop and demonstrate real-life skills. The report recommended more experiential and clinical approaches.
Yet, little change has ensued.
In July 2012, the ABA created a task force on reforming legal education, chaired by the recently retired Indiana Supreme Court Chief Justice Randall T. Shepard.
Any thoughts on assuming control of the task force, Justice Shepard?
I have prepared a statement and will not be taking any questions at this time. The task force will solicit views in the widest way possible to help us identify how the bench, bar, and legal education community can work together to provide meaningful opportunities for law students and graduates that benefit clients at large. Now, I'd like to bring out a few members of the task force to summarize the task at hand. First, from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, the Honorable James Wynn. From the University of California Hastings School of Law, Leo Paul Martinez. And from Ohio State College of Law, Professor Emeritus Nancy Hardin Rogers. Let's give these folks a little taste of what the task force is all about. Kids go to law school, fall deeply in debt. Years of tuition, just money misspent. Career decisions that come to regret. That's why the system will revamp. 3 years of study to better themselves. Grads work at wall-bound, stocking empty shelves, battling issues with their mental health. That's why the system will prevail.
The law schools led these kids to believe that they'd succeed with their JDs, but now they're finding their assets are seized. That's why the system will, that's why the system will, that's why the system will revamp.
These kids were hoping their incomes would soar. Jobs at Proskauer, Crowbar, Swain, and more. Law was their passion, but not anymore. That's why the system will revamp. Exploring models of how schools should teach. Maybe it's time to retire faculty. Renewing value in worthless degrees. That's why the system will revamp.
Gonna produce some novel reforms, down with the norm. Law school reborn, better do something, the buzzards do swarm. That's why the system will, that's why the system will, that's why the system will revamp.
Incredibly, some law schools are resistant to change and preferring to stick with the familiar playbook.
We're old dogs trying to learn new tricks. And all of us old dogs have got tenure and we're not going anyplace.
Putting one professor in front of a large group of students is very efficient, don't you think? Clinical classes and simulations require low student-to-faculty ratios and cost more.
Curriculum changes have to be approved by us faculty members, most of whom have graduated from the same elite law school. We've got comfortable jobs and have no reason to want change. What's the hurry to change? We've taught law this way for hundreds of years, and most of our tenured professors have been with us for almost that long. Few complain the students were being shortchanged. Just because there was a downturn in the market doesn't mean that our methods are wrong.
There is an established way of doing things that has served us and our forefathers very well. This is what we are accustomed to doing, and we see no reason to suddenly adapt our way of thinking because of some disgruntled students. Things here are good, things here are fine, only morale is on the decline. Pay a large fee, earn a degree, we strive to teach competently. Esoteric facts, meaningless claptrap, we offer costly courses that will leave you flat.
Leaders of the schools, deans who earn big pay, the state of education is by us okay. Don't listen to the kids, keep life as it is. We make a handsome living in the law school biz. Why tinker with our operation? Just maintain the status quo. Outside unemployment, in here we are making lots of dough.
We don't ensure kids will be placed. We stay outside the legal rat race. We can't be blamed if jobs don't exist. Consistently ranked last on the list. Alumni here are miffed with our analysis, which demonstrates our placement rate is accurate.
The students were not forced, they came of their free will. They knew what they were doing, they're not imbeciles. Placements were made known, records neatly kept. We did not tell them lies to attract applicants. Everything was in the open. Everyone was told the truth. Statistics they could not dispute. Arguments they can't refute. Allegations baseless, discredit to their meritless lawsuits.
Members of the ABA task force entertained a multitude of ideas for fixing law school's problems.
Suggestions are coming in from lawyers, judges, writers, bloggers, and anyone with a gripe and a Twitter account.
What we need to do is reduce the number of years required for the legal education from 3 to 2. I can't work with this.
How about encouraging students to go to law school directly from their junior year in college?
We should create a new category of legal professional comparable to nurse practitioners in medicine. Technicians whose training would be more than that of a paralegal, but less than a lawyer. They can provide services, but they cannot represent clients in court.
Law schools should create more legal clinics and hands-on training.
Could you imagine if medical schools graduated doctors without ever having them treat a patient? Just teaching them to think like doctors.
What's crazy is how few law professors have never seen the inside of a courtroom. If your primary mission is training lawyers,
How successful can you be if a large proportion of your faculty has never practiced law?
We need to fix the general perception of the profession. Students are opting out of the law school entrance exams in record numbers.
There's a scarcity of law jobs.
And the prospect of staggering debt loads.
There's a growing disconnect between the practice of law and the study of law.
Almost universal agreement that the system is broken.
Students in debt with big bills they can't pay. They'll be living in hock till their last dying day. Tuition is high, costs are still on the climb. Rising fees everywhere, schools are bleeding and dry. Alums out of work, their savings disappearing. No jobs and no perks, desperation nearing. They're volunteering. Kids are in debt with a capital D, which will stand for default if their loans they don't pay. They'll regret they're deep in debt.
We don't need proposals. We need action. Pow, pow.
Easy action. Let's settle these issues calmly. We'll play nice with the task force. Get them to recommend a reduction in the number of years we need to go to law school.
Reduce the cost of tuition.
More hands-on training.
More adjuncts.
Critics demand that class sizes be cut and tuition reduced, so law school should be shut. Law school career should be only 2 years. The third year is a waste, in case you did not hear. Firms are concerned about the lack of training. They write off the time, cause clients are complaining and no one's paying. Let's make the courses more diversified. We must arrange a change in the whole paradigm. We say the law school should get on the ball, cause the system, it needs a complete overhaul. There better be change. The students now demand it. The law schools, they say, are making off like bandits, and we can't stand it. Tenured professors, they say they is mere, but will they now income if income disappears? No, the whole darn system should be scrapped!
The task force, however, was not convinced that all was well with the practice of law. Complaints concerning the state of the legal profession poured in.
Law does not require 3 years of education. 2 is fine. The 3rd year is mostly superfluous electives.
UCLA law professors recommend unilaterally shutting down the bottom half of the ABA law schools per U.S. News World Report rankings.
Law School Transparency advocates law schools to gather and provide accurate graduate employment data to applicants and letting them decide whether law school is worthwhile.
2 economists, Clifford Winston and Robert Crandall, want to completely deregulate legal services.
Yale law professors, Rita and Ian Ayers, want first-year law students to be able to demand a partial refund if they choose to discontinue law school.
Attorney Ari L. Kaplan proposes law schools backload their costs, making the first year cheap, so students can decide if they want to continue without significant financial penalty.
CUNY law professor Michael Macarola and attorney Aaron Abraham argue for law schools to give their graduates put options on their student loans, which, if exercised, would require law schools to reimburse graduates for the difference between their projected income after 10 years and their actual income.
Deans have their heads up in the clouds. Deans do not see reality. They only see fast rising fees, increase
and fight.
Well, schools should cut costs by offering a Motel 6 education with no bells and whistles, in which practicing lawyers teach many of the courses. We don't need the Ritz-Carlton version, where full-time tenure-track professors teach the classes.
Neighboring schools should share library, faculty, and other resources. I mean, does every law school need an expert in the law of Timbuktu?
The Wall Street Journal's opinion page advocated reducing legal education into an undergraduate major.
Law does not need to be a graduate level program. Like engineering could be a BA degree with admission right from high school. Yes, a bad lawyer can hurt a client, but a bad engineer can hurt many more.
Allow four-year undergraduate law degrees combining legal and general coursework with clinical experience.
With dialing back the expense of a law degree from 7 years to 4 years will reduce the cost burdens on the public, the taxpayers, and the student debt load.
Sleep for 3 years, got no career. I am so deeply in debt, my arrears in arrears. Where are the jobs? I was misled, they lied knowingly. They said a placement was waiting, it was guaranteed. Where are the jobs? There ought to be jobs. Look at me now with my degree. The only bar I'm admitted to serves me whiskey.
school curricula centers on theory rather than practical skills.
None of this was news in the legal world, but a series of front-page articles in the New York Times brought long-standing critiques of legal education to a wider audience.
This in turn prompted hand-wringing by law professors who alternately acknowledged problems identified by the Times, yet dismissed its coverage as overly simplistic and negative.
Tenured law professors were particularly galled by a November 19, 2012 piece that painted them as ivory tower-dwelling chin-strokers who neglected to teach their students the practice of law.
I am Jim Chen, a member of the task force and a former dean of the University of Louisville's Law School. I told the New York Times that tenured professors are law school's biggest expense. If the curriculum were to be cut from 3 years to 2, professors would have to take a cut in pay. Professors will never accept it. So change would have to be forced upon them from the outside, possibly by the state courts.
I am Guy Pindell, a law professor and the co-president of the Society of American Law Teachers. SALT. I take strong exception to critics' characterization of a law professor's life. I suspect that law professors is no more highly paid than dental or medical school professors.
The legal profession does indeed face problems delivering services to a changing market, but the fault does not lie at the feet of law professors, who are, by nature, problem solvers. Although looking for a villain is tempting, and while professors are part of the problem, they can also be part of the solution.
Faced with the prospect of law schools reducing the number of classes being offered, law professors feared that their livelihood was being jeopardized. One less year of law school might mean cutting courses from the curriculum.
Professors whose careers have been built around teaching intellectually stimulating, but generally irrelevant courses, feared that they would soon be out of a job. A representative of this group made an impassioned plea before the task force.
I am Professor Ivor Von Dolmas. For the past 35 years, I have taught whaling law in New Bedford, Massachusetts, 1791 through 1797, and the limits on the liability of horse-propelled mail carriers to generations of largely disinterested students. Now there's a rebellion raging, folks calling these courses relics of an ancient time. Woe to those who do not appreciate the wisdom of those courses. There is a movement afoot to remove these inspired courses in favor of newfangled clinics taught by whippersnapper adjuncts, soon to be throwing me out like yesterday's telegraph. Me, who has never seen the inside of a firm or a court and wouldn't know a billable outfit, stood up and slapped me. This task force should resist cries for change. The education of the well-prepared requires 3 years of mostly unnecessary study, and not a moment less! I have earned tenure here, but never practiced law. I bore my students with a history of torts. I've never been to court, no motions have I brought. I've never held a law firm job of any sort. Now my days may be cut short if they eliminate my course. They say that 3 years of law school is more than kids need. They say the high cost of learning they want to decrease. If they slice off that last year, it may ruin my career. One less year, victimized by the economy. No more teaching kids philosophy. The salary I yearly earn will cover by 2 less terms, 1 less year. Can my value still be justified? Will they decide I need to be downsized? Will I be forced to practice law? I never practiced it before. No more are we at the diploma mill. We're focused now on drafting trusts and wills. No histories of income taxes. Stick to tort law and contracts. The course I teach will be taboo when they reduce 3 years to 2. 2 less terms, 3 less jobs, 1 less year. Yes, my career they'll now undo if law school years are only 2. Am I through? What am I to do?
Another interesting group, the white shoe law firms, complained that law schools are churning out too many ill-prepared lawyers.
Students need more practical experience. Law schools are not offering what law firms are.
Students find it harder than ever to get offers from the large firms. With a glut of recent grads on the market, the firms look for only the cream of the crop, setting their sights on the highest achievers from elite schools.
Most recent graduates, we upset because we reject them as associates. There's just a select few interviewed. Only Harvard, Yale, Columbia will do. We often disappoint new job seekers because we just appoint Ivy Leaguers. There is no place in here for second tiers. We got plans you cannot get in here. There's no exception to our rule. We just accept from the top schools, not you. Before the marketer, our law firm would still select those below 4.0. But then our profits fell, went through hell. Woe to those few from Cardozo. We had to rescind some standing offers because we felt the pinch in our firm's coffers. St. John's in Wisconsin. Guess again. The hiring freeze makes our degree no. There is no place for Hofstra you, even if you are law review. Not you. Not you. Not you.
There exists a deep problem, the disconnect between cost and need. Big firms have been hiring a few graduates from a select few law schools and paying them exorbitantly.
The result, these law firm associates provide services like document review or memo drafting at rates that their competence and experience don't merit. In a recession, clients resist paying the rates. Now, firms resist hiring new lawyers.
However, there are those scholars trying to address the situation.
My name is John Farmer, a former New Jersey Attorney General and now Dean of the Rutgers School of Law. I suggest scrapping the system and creating at the entry level the equivalent of a medical residency.
Dean Farmer, are you suggesting that law school graduates would practice for 2 years or so under experienced supervision at reduced hourly rates, where paying their debts could be suspended as it is for medical residents?
Law firms would be able to hire more lawyers at lower rates and give talented graduates of less prestigious institutions a chance to work. The firms at the end of the day would benefit from that.
Even those who don't make the cut, the residency will have provided them valuable experience.
Many states restrict the activities of law students, but residents, as new lawyers, would be able to litigate, give legal advice without restriction.
It's win-win for the students and law firms alike. Grads can be slaves with no promise of continued employment, while law firms can build those poorly paid minions at associates' rates.
Training these kids, squeezing their brains, working their tails off for minimum wage, abuse them then send them away. It's like a fantasy. Labor so cheap, talent so fine, a giant leap for our bottom line. We'll just give those law grads a try. We won't pay them anything. They'll write memos and we'll charge aplenty. Work them and show them the door. 10 hours a day, we'll bill 20. They're the few interns who we adore. A legal model we need to explore. Indentured attorneys at cut-rate pricing. They're sacrificing with no hope that they'll be retained. They have a degree, they're close to free, and we offer no guarantee. We're bound to succeed financially. Residency. They are unskilled, yet we will bill like they are polished. They're overpaid, given the state their written work's in. We're really pleased we're charging fees for such an untrained, unpaid novice. We're like bandits, clients stand it, so it's win-win. Throw us some bodies with no social life, who only delight in exciting clients. They'll be compliant and work hard with never a gripe. So slight the cost, no funds are lost, and their work we will never write off. Oh, glory be, such profits will be residency. Such profits there'll be, residency.
Chief Judge Lippman, you recently instituted a requirement that law students need to complete 50 hours of pro bono work before being admitted to the New York bar. Your critics have said that this requirement takes the luster, the feel-good out of doing pro bono work.
Well, you know, Miss Warner, that really is outdated thinking. Law students today, and I've spoken with many of them, are delighted to do the work and to have it credited towards becoming full-fledged lawyers. In fact, one of those law students is here with us tonight and can share all his thoughts with you. Thank you, Mr. Aaron.
When I do pro bono work, and I see how really great it makes me feel, it always comes as a surprise when I learn that it is now mandatory. Well, I never had a case that I could call my very own. That's all right, my judge, it's pro bono. When I help a worthy soul and tell them everything will be all right, they say, your advice can make me whole, and your work will help save me from my plight. Well, they'll never be a stranger, and they'll never be alone. That's all right, my judge, it's pro bono. The crime can be possession or a drug charge, or DWI to name a few. From Brooklyn up into Westchester County, pro bono is what I like to do. If I work here all my life and I never choose to stop and settle down, long as I'm true to what I like, there's heaven above and goodwill all around. It's my calling, it's my passion, and my reason for going on. That's all right, my judge, it's pro bono. It's pro bono.
One pressing issue before the task force is the disconnect between the number of out-of-work lawyers and the scarcity of lawyers serving the needs of the underprivileged. Law schools could restore a vibrant job market by making representation easier to obtain.
New York State courts took a step in this direction recently by requiring pro bono service as a condition for admission to the bar.
I am Douglas J. Sylvester, Dean of the Law School at Arizona State University. 2 years ago, when visiting the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, it dawned on me that we needed a teaching hospital for law school graduates.
Did anything become of your idea?
The result was a nonprofit law firm that Arizona State is setting up this summer for some of its graduates. Over the next few years, 30 graduates will work under seasoned lawyers and will be paid for a wide range of services provided at a relatively low cost to the people of Phoenix. The plan is one of a dozen efforts across the country to address two acute problems: heavily indebted law graduates with no clients, and a vast number of Americans unable to afford a lawyer.
Stacy Kaplow, a professor at Brooklyn Law School, called it a perfect storm, referring to the long-standing concerns over access to justice for most Americans and a lack of skills among law graduates. The combining of these issues has created conditions for change.
There is also a pilot program at the University of California, Hastings School of Law, which places some third-year students into offices like the public defenders for full-time training on the understanding that the next year, those students will be employed there for small salaries. Brooklyn Law School is continuing a similar program.
Across the country, recent grads are gravitating to nonprofits, offering their services for limited financial reward.
Out there are many who need legal advice. What they need is a neighbor lawyer, but find out they're too high for eyes. They need someone's assistance who knows how to get things done, but they can't afford to find one and pay them a princely sum. No, they can't pay a princely sum, and no, they can't pay a princely sum. But maybe I can feel that need. I think it's more important to to receive.
My friends planning law school plan to use their degrees, working in a law firm like Wild Shell and Mangees. They want to buy a co-op on 86th and Riverside. I'm working in the Bowery where the indigents reside, where the indigents reside, where the indigents reside. And maybe I can fill that need. I just define success and being blessed quite differently, quite differently.
I may not be wealthy and I'm always in debt. And if somebody asked me, I'd say I'm quite fortunate. I'm grateful for the talent to assist the underserved. Oh, the satisfaction it gives me so much more than I deserve. Oh, and it's so much more than I deserve. And it's so much more than I deserve. So here I am, spilling a need. But folks like me, it seems very few and far between. We're far between. We're far between.
I am Dean Frank H. Wu of the University of California, Hastings College of Law. In my open letter to the task force, I stressed that there are too many law students training for a JD in a market that is already saturated. The only question is whether these conditions are temporary or permanent.
Well, what other thoughts did you express, Dean Wu?
Most law schools and most of their students are not being prepared adequately for the possibilities of serving as contract attorneys, doing highly specialized but routine work, or adapting to other structural changes.
Well, what advice can you offer?
Tuition is too high and has risen far too quickly. The ABA's task force could have the most positive effect if it developed a feasible means for both reducing class size and lowering tuition. The public is demanding, and the federal government is starting to insist on accreditation standards that measure student learning outcomes. Admission to the bar, of course regulated by state, should be determined by examinations that test actual readiness to practice as best as possible.
Well, other steps are being taken to assist young lawyers.
A dozen law schools, including City University of New York and Thomas Jefferson School of Law in San Diego, have set up incubators to train future solo practitioners in their first year out of law school, offering office space and mentors. Pace Law School opened what it calls a community law practice with 4 graduates serving the region.
Well, you can't just hang out a shingle and expect clients to show up. Pace Law School wants to provide its graduates with the tools of success while serving low and moderate income clients.
And the incoming president of the ABA, James Silkenat, said that his top priority next fall will be to establish a legal job corps to match lawyers who need jobs with clients who need legal assistance. There was a time when they fed us lines that the market was fine, the time sublime for the legal profession. Law school deans led me to believe that I might achieve. Now I'm in a deep depression. There was a time when it all went wrong. There are proposals being made
finding their way into the profession, giving hope to recent grads.
Many law schools, including the elites, are increasing skills training by adding clinics.
Starting this fall, the University of Virginia will allow students to earn a semester of credit while working for nonprofit and government employers anywhere in the world.
At Drexel University, law students will be able to enter the job market after just 2 years of study, thanks to a program called Fast Forward.
Students will get into the workforce a year faster, thereby saving a year's living expenses without any income.
Starting in September 2013, law students at the University of Pennsylvania can earn a certificate of management from its Wharton School to improve management skills and accounting literacy.
Other schools are combining the recent Klein component of legal training with aspects of business lawyering, or utilize joint degrees or certifications that place law school training in the business context.
NYU School of Law has added business and financial literacy, as well as leadership and collaboration, as key components to its core curriculum. It has also emphasized globalization and interdisciplinary specialization.
The University of Dayton Law School and Northwestern University both offer 2-year degrees. By starting in the summer at each school, students can take 1 extra course per semester and finish in 2 years. Brooklyn also just implemented a 2-year program beginning in September 2013.
The University of Connecticut School of Law recently announced that it's joining 20 other schools which have made a clinical or externship component mandatory for graduation.
The co-op programs at Northeastern University and the Drexel School of Law perhaps represent the most comprehensive real client field placement programs offering full-time field placements for their students.
University of Miami School of Law has sponsored Law Without Walls to foster skills needed by the professionals of our future, such as presentation, communication, entrepreneurial teamwork, global and cross-cultural business planning, branding, technology, social media, self-awareness, work-life balance, professionalism, ethics, and idea generation.
Arizona recently became the first state to allow law students to take the bar exam in their 3rd year rather than after graduation.
Arizona State School of Law has also announced the creation of North American Law degree, a 3-year JD aimed at licensure in both Canada and the United States, recognizing the large need for lawyers skilled in cross-border practice.
These are but a few examples of real client education, contextual development, and exploration of the business acumen needed to work in the modern legal environment. These changes lay at the heart of legal education reform.
Across the country, change is being implemented as the demand for more reform remains constant.
Everywhere, voices continue to sing out, pressing for ways of better using unemployed recent graduates.
We fight for a better day, hoping they'll change their dated ways. We won't rest until the law schools become worth the fees we pay. We want teachers who have done not some ivory tower bunks. Let's repair curriculums we have just begun. Why must law schools be 3 years when we're mired in arrears? With 2 years of decent training, we'll embark on our careers.
Law school's cash cow fun is done. Deans will soon be overrun. We'll look out for number 1, we have just begun. We will give what we can give, but won't you show some sympathy? Who will join in our demands that they not change their greedy ways? The law schools must pay to let students be lawyers one day. We are fighting for our rights. Change won't happen overnight, but we'll fight until the law schools recognize their students' plight. There is work that must be done till the promised time has come, and the students' war is what we have just begun.
That's our show. We hope you relished our extravagance. Our presentation was so fabulous. The ethics team is in disgrace. Abundant talent we displayed. That's our show. The white-collar team must be in pain, but we have the gift to entertain. The game shows that the others told are dull compared to musicals. That's our show. We know that membership is in despair because it bound must wait another year. When an event we will present to work our magic once again. Until then you must all endure a string of shows by amateurs. Praise be so. Train, we will not sing a new refrain. No more songs. So long. That's our show.
Well, it's a very depressing.
It is a little depressing.
Oh, is that right?